not here. Chair Key,
Here.
Member Merrill,
Here.
Member Robertson is not here, indicated that she may be able to join remotely, but we will see. Vice Chair Robinson
Here.
and Member Rozier.
Here.
And then our liaison, Councilmember DeGolia.
Yes.
Okay. And any public comments? Seeing none, why don't we move on to our first presentation from the Atherton Arts Foundation?
Make sure sure.
Sure, go ahead.
And she's I'm Dorothy Hunter. I'm a former president of Atherton Arts Foundation. I'm now co-president along with Swati. And we were asked by you all to come visit. So what I've done is given each of you a paper.
I'm going to interrupt just
Mhm.
briefly. Member Robertson just joined.
Okay, great.
And it has the first paragraph is the history of Atherton Arts Foundation. Many people don't know, but it came about by a woman named Rita Corbett Evans, who bequeathed her home in 1976 to the town of Atherton. It is not the type of home that you think of today as a typical Atherton home. But she did bequeath it to the town of Atherton for an art center in the park. Or she actually wanted her home to be the center where artists and students gather and continue their passion and share their passion with the community. And the home is not zoned for such. So the home was sold. The money from the home built what is currently housing the nursery school. And Atherton Arts, to my understanding, used to be what was called Atherton Arts Committee, which would be similar to what Parks and Rec was. But then that changed to Atherton Arts Foundation, where we are our own independent organization, our own 501c. Up until 2019, money was given to Atherton Arts Foundation by the town that was still set in the trust, but that money is now gone. The end of it was spent for a sculpture that the Ullmans wanted and to fix up the building, the downstairs basement of the main house. There were exposed wires. There was, I don't know, it wasn't so good, but thanks to Robert and the town, it is now up to a much nicer standard. The drains are fixed. There, the wonderful heating, hot water when you turn on the tap. It's very acceptable now. So what our goal is with Atherton Arts Foundation for the next year or so is to really honor Rita Corbett Evans, to go back to her roots of wanting to establish an art center. And we have permission now with the upstairs to create a Rita Corbett Evans art gallery with art donated by local resident artists. And we have about a dozen pieces so far. And we want to have like a grand opening. Our two concerns about having it in the upstairs is security and respect. Security has been pretty much addressed, and that is by having the bolts, deadbolts bolted when there is not an event planner or myself like in the room. And our second most recent one is people who use the rooms do not store things up against artwork or lay things up against artwork. And it is maintained like someone's home. I had the opportunity a week and a half ago to meet the Palmer's adopted daughter, who actually lived in that house and climbed out one of the back bedroom windows to go see friends. And she had given us a picture from the 1930s from their house in the city. And by George, Monday morning, there was a metal table leaning against it. So that's the type of thing I hope Parks and Recs will kind of undergird us with the use of that house. So it is, all the artwork in there is respected. So anyway, that's where we're headed for the community. And then about once a month, I'd like to hold art classes upstairs in the main room, open those big French doors, put a sign out there that says Atherton Art Classes, Rita Corbett Evans Art Gallery, open, come in and visit. And so people in the community will actually see what we have available to rent, to see what we have for classes, and to view some of the art by our local community members. As far as the growth of our classes, for example, in January, we had 27 classes.
Okay.
We have, I'm just in charge of the botanical art. That's all I teach. We had a wonderful article.
Just saw that.
And here's some of the classes we have offered in currently and in the past and to come again in the future. Acrylic painting, basket weaving, bookbinding, botanical art, botanical dyeing on silk, botanical journal exchange, Chinese water brush drawing with Caroline Mustard, felting with wool, figure drawing, flower arranging, iPad, Procreate art, kids art, which we are not going to do. The liability insurance is a lot and kids don't know how to keep things neat. Knitting and crocheting, modern lettering, calligraphy, pastels, sewing, sketching in the park, travel sketching, trees, and climate awareness, watercolors, working with leather and Zentangle. So there's a wide variety of classes. Classes members are as low as 4 and as many as 12 with a wait list. We're very limited by our space. We're also very limited of space with our storage because as we are increasing classes, we need more storage. We have sewing machines, we have felting, we have art supplies. And so we are literally busting at the seams in that downstairs room. And I've talked to Frank about the possibility of using what used to be the Atherton Dames room for storage of our equipment for art shows, community art shows, not for classes, but just, 2 or 3 times a year, we would have to get in there for art shows. And so Frank and
So
I,
that's the downstairs room?
that's everything in the downstairs, yes.
She's referring to the closet.
Yeah, the closet right,
To the right, when you come in down.
It's
Stairs.
between, yeah, so if you're downstairs, as you're walking down the hall towards the arts room,
it is on the right.
there's a closet on the right
Mhm.
that was used for.
I don't know what's
storage.
in there. I don't know what the dames have
Yeah,
in there.
we'll open it up and take a look.
It got wet
Oh, about
2 years ago.
6 years ago,
Yeah, whatever it was, and,
8 years ago.
or has it been that long? Jeez.
Yeah,
But
is
that's
it-
you're having fun.
Is it full of stuff or is
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was where they
not
used to
clear.
store stuff for the Easter egg hunt and
Oh, okay.
that kind of stuff.
All the things that it looks like we're not gonna do again. Halloween, Easter egg hunt, the haunted house, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
well, I have an idea to work with Parks and Rec to do something. May I say it now? It's not on this list.
Sure, why not?
Plant the seed. I think it would be fun to have an Atherton Arts in the Park where we have booths of different artists, things that they do at the workshops at the library for kids.
Mhm.
We have local artists, art shows, we get food trucks, we maybe do like a wine tasting with some of these local wineries and have quite a nice day in the park
Yeah.
in summer.
All in favor, say aye. All yours.
Frank will be in charge.
No, that's why I'm
Frank and Will over there, he needs to be indoctrinated.
giving it to you.
But I just think it'd be fun to work together on some projects to because I remember how fun it was, when there were the burgers out here and people were in the park. It was just so neat. My grandkids came. And I think if we thought of like once a year doing an art in the park and combined all forces.
do you run the art show in the park? So
It
could it
doesn't happen anymore.
it doesn't happen anymore?
We,
Okay.
well, yes, no, not in the park, in Jennings Pavilion.
Right.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
had two since the pandemic. The one last fall we did not do
Okay.
because of all the construction. There just was not parking and it was just kind of messy. And then we plan on one this spring, which will be the big grand opening of the Rita Corbett Evans Gallery.
Okay.
And then we are going to be also having, I'm helping Rachel with the Earth Day, is that what it is, in April 21st, to have children's art. And then with the different people that she has using, like Pam McGraw, our sewing teacher, there she is. There is a booth that is going to be doing with recycling clothing. And so she will have an adjacent table that is showing how then you can make totes out of t-shirts or totes out of jeans. There's also another organization that is doing recycled wool, and we're going to have our felters there using some of the recycled wool, felting different artifacts.
Mm.
And I suggested to her, get hold of Sacred Heart Prep because they have olive trees. They make their own olives. They have gardens there and chickens. And then if they have all of the olives and their trees and stuff, I will have a bunch of my botanical artists drawing olive branches, and trees. Patricia Lorenas, who is going to be our first artist exhibiting in the town center here, is really into canopy and tree preservation. And she has painted lots of the trees in the park. So she's our first one, and she will also be here on the 21st to kind of guide through anyone who wants to draw trees.
Is there anything you need from our committee to, how about like the storage space or?
I think Rachel has that pretty much under
Okay.
control. I'm hoping she does.
Well, we'll work on that storage space. We'll open up the closet, see what's in
I
there.
mean, the storage space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I'm just wondering what our committee
Oh,
can do
oh,
to,
Yeah,
yes.
no, from the
That's the
committee
key.
standpoint,
nothing.
I don't think you guys need to do anything, just to be aware that
Okay,
the use of that closet's gonna
Right.
change.
okay.
Nothing will be thrown away without, well, Frank, you were more,
We'll
Frank-
take a
Frank
look to
used
see
the
whether or not it's
upstairs
worthwhile.
office Much more than
Upstairs,
downstairs.
yeah, well, we're out of that too. We haven't
Yes.
been up there, so,
there's nothing stored upstairs except a few electronics,
yeah.
a
There's,
TV and
my
some
knowledge, there's nothing
speakers.
stored up there. There was a.
No, well,
computer in there.
okay, so we do have some, art pieces that are not being hung. I think some of the Norman Rockwells are
That's where they
upstairs
in that
in
room.
the,
The room the
IT
Heritage
room.
Association used.
Yeah. So those are there. They're not,
Going to be
at
used.
this point, they're not being displayed anywhere, so they're just up there. And as Dorothy mentioned, we're working with the Arts Foundation about hanging stuff here at the town center. And so we put in both, and she's got it on her list, we put in some gallery art hanging
They're really
stuff,
nice.
both in the main house upstairs in a couple of the bedrooms and then up here. And then we're working with her about putting additional hanging materials in the main living room as
The
well
hallway.
as the hallway.
Okay, okay.
So,
Yeah, and hanging the art from the community. Right now, we have, like I said, about a dozen pictures, and some of them are like this by this, and others are this by this.
Okay.
So we have quite a variety.
yeah, so I mean, the system that we chose has some good flexibility in terms of alignment and stuff, so.
Okay. Any other committee comments or questions?
I do want, just to make note, that, Member Robertson put some stuff in the text.
Okay.
She's in a little bit of a loud place, so she doesn't want to come off of mute. But, she said that she'd like to personally vouch for some of the classes
Oh,
that
Okay.
have been
thank you,
offered.
Julie. There's a
and then-
picture of a piece of your art in the magazine.
Peter, that was on purpose.
And then she, loves the idea of providing the additional storage space, so.
Okay.
I think she liked the idea of the, expanding the public exposure in whatever way.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because I think if the public sees what some of our facilities are like, they're going to be more apt to want to rent them and to use them. And um, and not just Jennings Pavilion and the main house, but the town did such a beautiful job in the re-landscaping of the park. It is really nice, you guys. I don't know if the town spearheaded it or this council spearheaded it, but it is.
Robert?
I mean, when it first started, everyone was going, ugh. And now, oh my gosh, people are really excited about it. And I had a class upstairs last weekend and they said, I never knew this park was so beautiful and so vast because a lot of the scrubby stuff was taken out and you can see fields and the meadows in all directions. I mean, it is really nice.
Okay, well, thank you for
Yeah.
giving us the
Well, I'm
report.
passing on what students have said and it's unsolicited.
I may have missed it, but do any of those teachers get paid?
I don't. I
You
asked
have a
for,
list here of about,
yeah, most
of
of
them are-
them don't. I asked for a donation of $20 for all day. And it is, we pay our own insurance to cover the teachers and the students.
and how about, I see the fourth graders in there and things like that. Where do those teachers come from?
The fourth graders were in there one time and they left it a disaster.
Oh,
There was red and green ink and paint on every table, even if there were only 4 students. There was on our couch, on our lamps, on our towels. I mean, and so I just said to the lady, I think because I was trying to be so tactful. Because there are sewing classes and art classes and knitting and crocheting classes, it doesn't mix well with children.
Well, there were some in here, looks like doing the sewing, which might be a little,
The sewing, they're in middle school and above,
yeah, okay.
and they're pretty mature and they don't leave a mess. And I keep trying to convince Pam, let them sweep the room and put the sewing machines away. You don't have to do that. But anyway, so back to the funding. Pam charges for her time. And and she donated the sewing machines out of her own pocket. And we gave her money for supplies. And with my $20 a student for all day, it goes to supplies that help Pam, supplies that will undergird the new watercolor teacher. And it pays for all of our insurance. So we are on a tightrope budget, but I refuse to ask for more than $20 because retired people come, wealthy people come, and sometimes will drop $100 in the pot. That happens a few times a year. And also a few times a year, people don't pay, and I don't ask. I do keep a roll sheet because of the teacher in me. If they're in the bathroom and there's an earthquake, I grab my clipboard and run out, and they know they meet me out on the field and I'll see who's present. Deborah Shea is a professional artist. That is her livelihood. She teaches pastels. We do not pay her, but we ask students, I will use the word fee instead of donation. And that goes directly to her. And then she gives back a donation to Atherton Arts Foundation.
Okay.
So it's kind of an understanding like that because we're a 501c and we are not going to deal with the taxes and Social Security and all of that. So therefore, she comes independently to us and leaves us a donation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
thank you, Dorothy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you. I love it. It's just, people are so excited when they come here, and you don't need to record this, but there are a lot of single women who have, since giving me like keys to their house. If they have an emergency, and we share recipes with the other ladies, and there's bakers that come. They share information on insurance, what kind of cars to buy. It has become, I really truly think what Rita Corbett Evans wanted was a community within the arts of men and women, because I've had 20-year-old young men and I've had a 90-year-old men. in class. And so it fits the gamut of what a community is all about. So,
Thank you, Dorothy.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a privilege. And it's fun.
That's the important part.
Item 4 is approval of minutes for November and December. Are there any updates to the November minutes that any committee member wants to make? If not, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
Hey, wait, you
Wait,
can't
wait,
leave. You
can
have
I-
to
can
stay
I
for the whole rest of the
Just,
thing.
I have
just kidding, sorry.
Frank making the motion.
Yeah.
Who was the second?
Was it you, Walt, or Robert, who made the second?
I did.
Okay, Walt,
And is that for one or both?
just November.
Okay.
And then I think it was unanimous. Do we need to get Julie in or?
Well, unfortunately, because of,
Oh, because she can't. vote.
yeah, so she can participate in conversation, but she's not voting today.
No problem. December minutes, I do have one correction. I remember we barely made quorum and I think, Bob, were you there in December? You were here? Oh, okay, then forget that then. I thought Bob may have missed that, but
No, he
maybe
was
my-
here.
it's been a while.
Almost made the canceled one.
Okay. Then I have no changes. And do I have a motion for the December minutes? There's no other changes requested.
I make a motion.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any abstentions or nays? Hearing none, passed unanimously. Okay, let's move on to the regular agenda. 5A, Robert, access and circulation project.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. As I'm hoping most of you have noticed, the project is almost pretty, I mean, it's fairly well completed. We have a few remaining items to address. There were additions that we're doing with regards to the access drives, repaving the access drives, and we're going to redo the main house parking lot. But that's all weather dependent, so we can't get out there and do it. There are some minor corrective items that are needed as well. And then we need to put in a new drain right near the curve where where you sweep in from the entry into into the main drive.
Good.
In one of the previous rainstorms, we noticed some pretty
Yeah.
significant water buildup in the main lawn and in that corner.
Always-
And so we're gonna address that.
Always been
Um,
a long time.
So that we have on our list to fix. The good things that I'd like to say is that the drainage improvements that we did in the North Meadow parking lot, we no longer have a lake there or
Yeah.
haven't seen one since we did those improvements.
Went by today, there's no lake.
What's that?
Went by today, there's no lake.
And then similarly, we had another drainage issue that we fixed near the door to the arts room. And so we had we replaced maybe about a 15-foot section of pipe that was fully clogged with roots. And so that has been effective, knock on wood. And similar to what Dorothy said, we've been getting a lot of general positive feedback with regards to the improvement. So
Good.
thank you to the committee for all the input and work that you guys did in providing direction and helping us get the project.
Well, thank you, Robert, for getting the job well done.
Um,
Is the repaving going to be done when the weather dries up?
I
in
say,
spring?
we can't schedule until we have a good weather window, and we've been getting rain pretty much every week, so it's something that we're working with we have to coordinate between our construction manager and the contractor to make sure that they're all available to come out and get the work done.
Okay.
Robert, let me ask you a question. I had somebody over there 3 days after it rained, and the new DG was so muddy that we had to walk on the grass. Are you getting any comments, particularly because we're looking at eventually replacing all the asphalt? and I
so-
remain concerned.
So there are, like I said, there's that one area that gets inundated with water and it looked kind of like a lake in the front grass. And then there's other areas that, water isn't draining off of the DG as well as it should, and there isn't enough stabilizer material. And so it does get muddy, and when water is ponding on the DG, it is a problem. It is something that we are aware of. However, it's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's one of the things about DG. And so what we're going to have the contractor do is come back and restabilize some of those areas and pitch them so that the water drains off a little faster. And so we are aware of it. We've gotten calls about it as well. But you say, we don't need a call to see what the problem is at this point. So those are, like I said, there are corrective things that we need to do.
Okay, that'd be very helpful because unfortunately the remark was we were better off with the asphalt no matter how it looked. So,
Well,
yeah.
I would say that the asphalt does pond too, and then you have to go around it as well.
A
When
little
it,
bit, but you know, I've never been forced off the grass, onto the grass with asphalt.
there is a spot behind the bathrooms for the ballpark
Yeah,
that has quite a bit of water
yeah.
and a few spots, I think also behind the play school too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know why we did it because of the problem of the roots. But unfortunately, there's
Yeah.
no roots in front of the, of the house.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say, and there's a few soft spots, I think, closer to the main house as well. So we're aware.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Not, we can move on to 5B. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I am gonna kick off the presentation, then we have our consultant, Scott Harrison, with us virtually online. I'm gonna kind of run through the survey results, and then Scott will kind of show some images and share kind of what the park looks like, what the playground looks like today. Some I call them more idea focused things with regards to thematic elements that it'd be good to get some feedback on so that we can start really developing some of the concepts that for the playground and get it to the point where we're ready to get some public feedback. Okay? And so with that, give me a second here. I'm going to try and share my screen. And so this is just kind of a live run through on the survey results. The results have been published in the package. It's the same information. We closed the survey on the 31st of January. And so the results that you have in your package are those results. And so just kind of feeding through, most of the respondents are Atherton residents, almost 60%, almost 30% from Menlo Park, and the rest are from other adjacent communities, including Redwood City. In terms of age brackets, you know, the respondents, you know, many have more than one child, and that's why you're going to see the respondents. The total responses are greater than 100%. But the bulk are in the 0 to 5 age bracket, with, you know, more than 30% in the 6 to 12 group. So we do have a wide age range. And then we did have a few that were older than that, not too many. And then we did have a few comments from seniors as well. and we can get into that. We did ask, just for informational purposes, kind of what, where they went to school. It runs the gamut, with regards to folks that are going to the Knox Play School, other play schools, some from Nativity and others from elementary schools in the area. And then on frequency, we have a good number of folks that visit at least once a week. More than 40% visit a week. And if you add on the daily folks, which are a little more than 10%, we're over 50% of the respondents are what I'll call active users of the park and the playground. And then you have almost 30% are coming to use the playground on a monthly basis. So I'm going to say overall, with 123 respondents, I'm going to say that we're collectively happy that we have that many respondents to the survey, providing us with feedback. And then, when visiting the park, what features do they utilize? What do they enjoy, et cetera? You have the detailed responses, and then, asking, we'll get into what features people are interested in a minute. But, thematically, in improving the playground, what style or what theme are they interested in? And it's more of the traditional and nature-based, nature-inspired look that people are interested in. So you have a good number of folks that are there on that. And then this here is just more just to kind of get a feel for, in addition to the playground, we know that there's other things that are ancillary that need to be addressed. We don't have a drinking fountain in the area. And so providing a drinking fountain, increasing shade is important. And then one thing that we knew was the condition of the bathrooms and the need to replace it. And so, though not part of the construction budget, the planning component and laying out the bathrooms and helping selecting what kind of bathrooms is actually part of this scope.
Okay.
So that we can make sure that it fits with how we're laying out the playground. And so based on that, we'll be able to theoretically come back to the council and ask for additional money to do the playground with either an additional budget added to this project or separately, because all the pre-work will be done.
Remember, one of the comments was having a little kid's toilet as well as, just the normal toilets would be.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that will, as we move forward in that, there'll be conversations about how large, how many stalls, are they individual stalls or are they multi-people? Should there be a family bathroom or child fixtures, that kind of thing? So those will all be future conversations.
Okay, great.
And then here we get into, when you talk about a playground and how fun different elements are, what do you want to see? You have this. And so rather than the bar chart, which takes up a lot of space, what you have on your screen now is also included in your packet, kind of a percentage-based thing looking at folks. And up at the top of the list are things that we would expect. Slides, swings, climbing elements, whether it's horizontal or vertical, sand play, and potentially some balance features. And so those are the kinds of things that folks are looking at. Lower on the list are things like the seesaw, the spinners, and the educational elements.
Although, Robert, I don't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at interesting and very interesting,
Yeah.
everything falls in that category. I mean, there's nothing that if you take
Well,
those
I mean,
two-
we can't provide everything, so we kind of have to
Well,
balance, and you
well,
can
I'm
see
just
here,
saying, I
it kind
think
of
it
weights
gives us pretty
things.
much carte blanche,
Yeah.
if you look at that.
But if you look
Obviously,
at
we
the
want
things
the
that
higher, but
are
The higher
listed,
versus the lower is not a heck of a lot of difference in
Yeah.
some of these. big-
but if you say the things that are quote unquote not interesting and you go based on that, then it kind of works up from.
Well, clearly, we're not having any scavenger boards, hunts, or educational learning boards, right?
Um, and then, there's a variety of, just open-ended, what don't you want to see? And that, I'm gonna say, everybody's opinion varied, so there were positive things for, there's folks that really want sand and other folks that don't want sand. The
Tree bark.
engineered wood fiber versus the poured in place, which is a conversation that we will need to have because the rubberized surfacing is really expensive. And so we're going to have to pick a balance between the spending money on the surfacing versus play equipment and that kind of thing. So, and then, with regards to colors, it again leads more towards that naturalistic brown, tan, green type color palette is where most folks landed. And that's similar to what we have now in terms of the color palette. So, and then, like I said, you have all the open-ended responses in there for you. And so before we move on, any questions, comments, we can open it to, I don't know where you want to take public comment.
I think we'll take questions, but one question I have is what feedback do you need from us from the survey? Do you need us as a committee to say, make a decision on some of these, or is it?
I'll put it this way. This is information that we gathered from the public to
Mhm.
help guide the decision-making processes.
Okay.
Okay, so you have all of the input. And as we move into the next part, Scott's gonna kind of show what some play structures may look like. And utilizing that to help guide that feedback in terms of what we want to see in those in the playground,
Yeah,
if
so
that's helpful.
one thing I was wondering, like, how will Scott decide, should he include seesaws or not include seesaws? Because seesaws like fifth or sixth on the list and is in that cutoff, or?
Yeah,
do you
and
wanna ask us
so-
what it is?
Like I say, these are things that you're going to provide feedback on. He's going to
Feedback.
show you some stuff and they're just illustrative. And so that you can get the mind flowing in
Okay.
terms of what things could look like.
Okay.
And then I have another one that I want to somebody kind of shared with us at the last minute in terms of thematically thematically is the wrong word. Another manufacturer that has kind of a little bit more on the nature push.
Okay.
And so we haven't contacted that. We just started that process of contacting the manufacturer. Their price ranges are a bit higher, and so.
So
that's
should
it.
we get Scott's presentations, then take questions?
Yeah, well, I said, if you have any
Take public
questions
comment.
on what
Okay.
we presented so far, I'm happy to try and answer that.
Any questions from the committee so far? Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll finish the presentations and then we'll take any additional questions from the committee and then public comment.
All right, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Scott, hopefully you're still there and able to share your screen. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Yeah, so
I don't think, we can't hear you, Scott.
can you not hear me right now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You're unmuted here.
Let me see if I join the audio.
Recording in progress.
Can you hear me?
Well, we can hear you on a device, actually.
Do you want me to put the microphone next to it? No.
No, we're going to get a lot of feedback. Give me a second and we're gonna try and work something through the other machine.
Okay.
Scott, can you try again?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Sorry, Scott, we're getting you through on a computer, but not on the audio system. So hold on just a second. We'll
Let
try
me-
one more thing.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, like I said, we can hear you through one of the laptops, but not through our room-wide audio.
Got it.
Go ahead and speak now and we'll I put a mic closer to the computer and see if that works. Go ahead.
Does that sound better? Can you hear me?
Does that sound better? Can you hear me?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm getting like a delay of feedback, so
like a delay of feedback, so.
about like a second and a half, but I'll
a second and a
if
half.
this is
but
the
I'll,
option, I'll just continue.
I'll just continue.
So real
So-
quick, yeah, Robert did a good job at going through the survey, and we have taken that survey and utilized that as part of our design process. I've had the opportunity to meet with the subcommittee a couple different times on the survey and creating that, and then on some of the design options. I just want to point out that the design, the survey closed on January 31st, and we wanted to take opportunity of this meeting to really get a head start on the direction from you guys on how you guys foresee the playground there in Halbert Palmer. You guys are the voice of the community for the direction, and we want to get a final concepts to be able to go to community outreach, just so we have some type of direction. For those that don't know me, I've been with Interwest for a couple of years now, and my previous experience was on the city government side, working with in Parks and Recreation as an assistant director, worked my way up to that. And my role was over capital improvement projects, replacement, strategic planning. I'm a certified Parks and Recreation professional, through the National Recreation and Park Association, so I got a lot of experience. I'm a part of a team within Interwest where we tackle park projects, the design from a large scale down to minor playgrounds, similar to this one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through basically the existing features that are there, and then kind of get into the concepts. The concepts are, like I said, have been put together in a short period of time, so they are just for us to get together and really look at the features and what the direction is going to be. And we have the first two concepts will be very standard, and then we'll move into two other concepts that will kind of give you an idea of how much can fit in that area. As we get into it, so this is the existing playground you guys have there now. You have the bridge system here. You got monkey bars. You got the slide. Bringing this up to more modern. You got the slides. You got the swings here. You got an ADA swing system here. You have the toddler one. For older kids. The fence system here, we're looking at upgrading this to black aluminum type fencing that, that's gonna be part of our discussion on where we want fencing. That's gonna be a big topic. Do we want the entire playground fenced in? Do we want to just maintain the smaller area fenced in as it is now? I believe this was a water feature at some point. We got this set up in one of our designs that will kind of show you what we could do there if we maintained it and kept it. The younger age group does have very small features, and the survey did show that, you know, they do like those small features for like the, the 0 to 2 really is the age for some of these. I've been out there personally. I've seen nannies out there. I've seen really young kids. And they have personally told me that they do like the smaller features for kids where they won't fall off of and things like that. This is the train theme you guys kind of have currently. You got some PIP with the big sand pit area. So the survey results, you guys did have a good turnout on the survey. It was 123, which is really good. The key features, the elements that kind of came back were, when you do a word cloud, were swings, monkey bars, slides, sand pits, benches, and a lot of shade. They did, it was clear that they wanted shade, and the sand pit area was a big one as well that I noticed throughout on the comments. Improved experience on that question was increased shade, drinking fountain, and upgrading bathrooms, which, Robert has alluded to how we're going about doing that. And we'll get into more conversations on that probably at a later date. The color section was really clear, green, tan, brown. The themes was nature inspired with the traditional. The concepts that we have will really kind of tie in both the traditional with the nature inspired. So as we get into the concepts, I just want to point out the first two concepts, there was an area that, these were turned around in a short period of time that they didn't utilize the whole area. So keep an open mind. We're really looking for just direction on some of these features that we have, the layout and those types of things. The first two concepts are going to basically be taking the same playground and updating the features that are currently there to more modern. There were some comments throughout the survey that they really liked the way the playground was. They would just like more modern playground features. I apologize. The feedback is like 2 seconds after I talk. So this is a survey of the current playground as it is right now. There's a curve that goes around all the way through here. It comes around this way. This is that fence that comes around. The younger age group has a fence that just goes this area, not around the older age group, which is something to consider on if we want to keep it that way or make the entire thing fenced in. When we get into these first two concepts, this whole area is not utilized, and that's part of, we got these concepts back yesterday, so we didn't have an opportunity to go through and make changes. So keep in mind as we look at the first two concepts. This is the area that will be included. There's a lot of room here between these first two concepts to change stuff around, to add stuff you like from the second one versus the first one. There's area to add stuff to these first two concepts, being like, I know this probably should be shaded if we maintain the same style. There should be some type of shade structure here with some this over here could be an addition of 2 more swings, to where that way if this part is fenced in, we would have swings over here. The fencing here to take into consideration again on all of these is fencing the whole thing around, or fencing just the younger age group around and having it come this way, or all of this stuff based off of our discussion after we go through all these concepts is going to be the discussion on how we want those main features to look, the main layout. So you can see it kind of maintains the same deep kind of area. They made this into a sand pit with some sand scoopers. Disregard these shade structures the way they are. This is something that can provide. I know this area here has a lot of shade. This area here over here on this side doesn't have as much shade, and I know this is where we need to have some type of shade structures on this end of the playground. So here you have, you know, you have a tunnel up here in the middle that they can climb up. You can climb around this way on different platforms, you know, a slide that comes around. You got horizontal climbers to kind of go around this whole area. Some stone natural looks, monkey bar system, that's a little different than your traditional.
That's a little different than your
You have a little spinner on this side.
You have a little spinner on this side.
This is like a springy platform you come around.
It's like a springy platform you come around, some balancing
monkey bars.
platforms.
Now
Monkey
keep in
bars.
mind the PIP versus
Now,
the
keep
wood
in mind
chips.
The PIP versus the wood chips.
That's a big discussion today at the end of after I
That's
go
a
through
big
all of these
discussion today at
concepts.
the end of after I go
is-
through all of these
Do we
concepts.
want PIP and
We want PIP.
we're gonna have to minimize
and,
the amount of
we're gonna have to
PIP.
minimize the amount of
With
PIP.
these first two
With
options,
these-
there's a lot more
with these
opportunity
first
to
two
add
options, there's
a lot more PIP
to
versus
add
the,
a lot more
the,
PIP
second two
versus
options.
The second two
I mean,
options.
the third and fourth options.
I mean, the third and fourth options.
This will all be included. These being
This will all
organized
be
the way
included.
they are,
These being
you know, they
organized
can
the
be
way they
moved out,
are,
spread out. We can add,
they
like
can
I
be
said,
moved out, spread out.
the
We can
double
add,
swing
like I
system
said,
over
the
here, or even
double
three
swing
swings.
system over here, or even three swings.
We got the balancing,
We got
you have a balancing beam here that, you know, people walk
the
across
balancing
stepping
beam
stones.
here that,
This,
you know, people
this
walk
system
across
you-
stepping stones.
is really
This
just for younger
system
kids, and this was
is
that
really just for younger
0 to
kids.
2 age
That
range to where kids
0 to
can
2
kind of
age range
play
to
on
where
these
kids
smaller
can kind of
structures.
Play on these smaller structures.
You'll see between this option 1 and 2,
You'll
there's
see
some
between
stuff
this
that we
option 1 and
can
2, there's
mix
some
around and
stuff that
move.
we can mix around and move.
This is the second option. It's like I said, the first two options do maintain the
Like I said, the first
same
two
kind of
options
area of the
maintain
play structures.
Same kind of area of the play structures.
There's a table here that's a kind of cool addition
There's a
to the
table
sand
here that's a
area,
kind of cool
wherever
addition
that
to
may
the
be, is
sand
having this
area,
sand table.
wherever that may be,
There's
is
some
having
little
this sand
stationary,
table.
you know, you put
There's
sand
some
in it, it
little
kind of funnels
stationary,
through, goes
you
back
put
in these,
sand
and
in
then
it, it kind
funnels
of
down
funnels
into the
through, goes
sand
back
pit.
in these, and then funnels down into the sand pit.
The location of these benches that you've seen
The
throughout
location of these
are
benches
not
that
the
you've
actual
seen throughout
benches that would be
are
used, and they're not the actual
benches that would
location.
be used, and they're not the actual location.
Get into, so you can see there's this is just
So
a
you can
different
see
setup.
this is
All of
just a
these
different
colors
setup.
are customizable, the
These
different
colors
items are customizable, what
the
you do
different
like, what
items
you
are
don't like.
customizable, what you do
You
like, what
got
you
ladders
don't
coming
like.
up, you have this little cave
You got ladders coming up, you have this
area
little
where
cave
there's a door that goes in
dome
and kind of
area where
play
there's a
inside
door that
there.
goes in and kind of
You got
play
this net
inside
that
there.
climbs up and they go around, you
Got
know, they
this
just
net
follow
that
the
climbs
system
up
all the
and
way
they go
around.
You know, they just follow the system all the way around.
You got a little rock wall on this side, some stairs
Got a
going
little
up to the
rock wall on this side,
platforms.
some stairs going up to the platforms.
This is that cave area you kind of go in.
This is that cave area you kind of go in.
Just a little spinner that they put here,
Just a
that we
little
put here.
spinner that they put
There's a
here.
little log climb through
There's a little
system.
log climb through system.
And then this area here,
And
I
then
would
this-
imagine
this-
is somewhere that
this
if
area
we
here,
want
I
to
would
keep a
imagine is somewhere
middle
that if
sitting
we
area,
wanna
that this
keep
would
a
have
middle sitting area, that this
some
would
type of
have
big shade structure
some-
here with
some
some
type of big
seating as
shade
it is kind of
structure
now.
Here with some seating as it is kind of now.
So the next layout,
next,
like I said, all of this
layout,
stuff can be moved.
like I said, all of this
It
stuff
can be
can be
placed in
moved.
different areas. It can be
It can be
completely
placed in
removed.
different areas. It can be completely removed.
This one is kind of set up to have the
This-
entire
This
area
one is kind
fenced
of set up
in
to have the entire area fenced in.
and make it so the you know,
And make it so
everyone
the-
can play.
You know, everyone can play.
You don't have a fence
and
kind of blocking people
don't have a
into
fence
just
kind of
one age group.
Blocking people into
There's
just
picnic
one age
tables
group.
on, we figured this was a good
Tables on- we
area to
figured this was a
not put
good
picnic
area
tables and take
to
up
not
space,
put Picnic tables and
but
take
to
up
have them
space.
over here where people can still
But to
have
have
lunch.
them over
and
here where
sit
people can
at.
still have
This is a
lunch
drinking
and
fountain where we would
this
consider
is a
putting a drinking
where
fountain.
we would
I'll
consider
show
putting-
you kind of a drinking
show
fountain
you
that I
kind of
have
a
behind.
drinking fountain
And
that I have
You know, it's the high scale, most expensive one.
You know,
It
it's the
has
high
the
scale,
dog
most
bowl for
expensive
dogs
one. It
walking
has
by.
the
It's
dog
got
bowl for
hand
dogs
washing,
walking by,
drinking,
got
bottle
hand
filler.
washing, drinking, bottle filler.
So this one is gonna be
So this one is gonna be
larger scale, This
Larger
PIP
scale,
is something that is, we need
PIP
to
is
consider
something that
in
is,
regards to the design and
consider
the
in
cost
regards
for
to the
it.
Design and the cost
PIP
for it.
is $30 a square foot, so
PIP
you
is
can,
is
it
$30
adds
a
up
square foot, so you
as
can,
you start
it
to
adds
do
up
PIP everywhere.
as you start to do PIP everywhere.
This one has like kind of a 3-tier,
This one
has a
has like kind of a
closed-in
3-tier,
slide.
has a closed-in slide.
You got your climbers coming up this way, your
You got your
balance
climbers
beam,
coming up
walk
this
across
way,
with
your
stepping
balance
stones.
beam, walk across
Um,
with stepping stones.
You got this vertical climber as well as
You got this vertical
horizontal, you know,
climber
little
as
hole
well
they
as
can switch
horizontal,
directions
a little
from.
hole they can switch.
You got platforms on this side that you kind of
You
come
got
around, go
platforms
down on
this
that side.
kinda come around,
This little
go down
tree
on that
climbing
side.
system, you got monkey
Tree climbing
bars, you
system,
got
you
another
monkey
little
bars,
first deck
got
slide.
another little first deck slide.
You got monkey bars on this side as well as this
You
kind of
got
setup of
bars on
monkey
this side
bars.
as well as this kind of setup of monkey bars.
You can see it kind of has it takes up, you know, that whole area over there where you have a platform, you kind of go up and over, down this way, and you climb up to like a, you know, a taller story where you have this big slide.
Taller story where you have this big slide.
So this is something that, you know, this sand
So this
pit
is something that, you know, this
is, I don't think is acceptable. I think we need to have, it was very clear in the survey that we need to have a sand designated area. And a lot of people wanted a sand pit that was a lot bigger than this.
That was a lot bigger than this.
These colors are interchangeable. We don't need to have blue, but this kind of serves that 0 to 2 age range.
Serves that 0 to 2.
You got this imaginary playhouse, you know, keeping for imaginary play.
Keeping for imaginary.
You got a little bit bigger of a structure for those older 3 to 5 year olds.
Those older 3 to 5 year olds.
You got little slide systems. These can be changed if we don't like this plastic rock look and more of like an actual stone look. These are benches that are options that kind of tie into the playground. I have some other ones that would kind of tie in as well if it was this type of theme.
As well, if it was this type of theme.
And then, like I said, the PIP just, you know, we'll talk more after we go through this last concept, but that'll be part of the discussion. You know, what direction do we want to go with PIP?
You know, what direction do we want to go with PIP?
So this one is has a very, very big structure here. It's got your swings over here with some tandem swings where you can have the adult with the younger one with a, you know, toddler. Same thing over here. There's one which is a cool swing feature.
Which is a cool swing feature.
So this is the layout. This again has the option, you know, we can fence the whole thing in, we can kind of split it, we can move stuff around however we feel. That's gonna kind of be, you know, that is gonna be the decision on how we want to break this up. Got this tall climber, you know, I don't know that that's a good fit.
You know, I don't know that that's a good fit.
The playground out there based off the survey.
The playground.
There were some comments on that, on
there were some comments
the
on
net
that.
climbing system and kids being able to fall like this type of setup.
This type of setup.
And these colors are interchangeable to more of like a brown look that I think would look better, you know, tan in here.
You know, tan.
Get away from these kind of vibrant neon green colors.
Kind of vibrant neon green colors.
You got the log look here. You got slide on this side, slide here. Little tic-tac-toe system kids can play with. Vertical climber coming up rather than your traditional stairs. They got a net system on that side, monkey bars here in the middle. You got the bridge that kind of goes across. This is, I do think that this sitting area, the survey had mentioned it a couple times. I do think it's nice to split up the younger and the older age group and have like a sitting area with some type of shape. It doesn't need to be a tri-sail type system. It can be, you know, a square, kind of cover more shade area. Like I said, the area on this side is where we're gonna have more shade sails in order to block that sun. sand pit again. As an option that I was looking at this, that maintaining and keeping that same area over here and making that a sand pit is not a bad idea.
Making that a sand pit is not a bad idea.
It's already there with the curbing and everything,
It's
and
already
it's
there
kind
with
of
the
a bigger
curbing and
sand
everything, and
area that can
it's
be
kind of a bigger
utilized.
sand area that can be utilized.
This is that swing system I was talking about
This
where
is that,
toddler sits
swing
in here
system
and
I
the
was
adult
talking
sits
about
on
where
this
toddler
side.
sits in here and the adult sits on this side.
All right. Scott, I'm gonna cut if you, I'm gonna say, before we get into what site furnishings may look like, I think it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity for the committee to ask questions. And maybe I can kind of help guide some of the thoughts.
Yep.
And so I know that Councilmember DeGolia had a question about those little tree-looking things, whether they were shade or not, and those are just decorative more than shade. In that same image, there are some wider pieces that actually provide shade.
Like
So
that.
like either that or I think you'll see the brown shade sails as well. And so in terms of things to think about, and to be honest, I don't know how much directed feedback we're going to get at this meeting, but things to think about and maybe provide us as staff information, that, and then we would have a meeting with the subcommittee to kind of more focus on that. But things to think about would be, how big a structure do we want? The bigger it is, obviously, the more expensive it is, but I think the committee maybe expressed some concern as to the balance that we want to have with our park and making it useful for our residents, but not overly, not overly big where it, kind of overtakes things. So just kind of, what Scott showed were kind of, I'll call them step up levels, where you had the small structures for small children, which we do definitely need, 2-tier versus 3-tier. How big a slide do we want? How high do we want folks to climb? And again, these aren't the actual structures. These are just to kind of get the juices flowing and kind of think about what elements we want to have. We saw different types of climbing things, whether it's the monkey bars or that net grid where folks can climb up and across to go from one element to another. I think that tower thing may be a little too much for the park. And then again, kind of going into kind of the look. Are these the kinds of looks that we're looking for? There was I think it was in the first or second one where the steps looked like more like rock than the third or fourth one. And then you can see how flexible the space is in terms of where we put things, right? Scott mentioned that, well, we have the child area, the smaller kid area, and we could actually put small kid swings in that small kid area and then have bigger swings on the outside.
So we provide kind of these initial thoughts now, maybe go around the committee, choose the concept or.
Yeah, and if
changes to
there's
the concept.
questions or feedback or
And
things.
then we talk about the fixtures next, or.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say these, again, this is a lot to absorb
Yeah.
in today's meeting.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense for you to take
Yeah.
this back, think about it, and if we don't get feedback today, that's fine.
Okay.
We can get it over the next week or so and then set up a subcommittee meeting so that there can be a conversation in the next week or so.
Okay.
So that it can go back to the equipment folks so that they can kind of give us a better set of concepts.
So if any committee members are not ready to give feedback now, they can send you their feedback
Yep.
sometime between now and our March meeting.
I would say that the sooner I get it, the better, because
Okay.
we would like, what I'd like to do for the March meeting is be able to come back with revised concepts that actually kind of
Okay.
take in some of that feedback. So
So say by the middle of next week.
by
is-
the middle of next week would be great. And then,
Well, let me suggest.
Yeah.
First, we ought to have Scott's, uh, video where we can study it. Then we ought to have a subcommittee meeting where we can go over these and some, I mean, this is kind of, as you say, a lot of stuff to throw out there. For instance, I didn't see any space with fences. People wanted fences so they could
yeah,
get those
so,
2-year-olds out there.
yeah, so I'm going to say this is that we need to think about where things are going to go so that we can lay out those fences.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
he showed you one,
Yeah.
like this concept that you see on the screen. It doesn't lend itself to a fence that separates the younger kids from the older kids. It lends itself to fencing off the entire thing. The other concepts where it's a little more separated lends itself to
Fence.
the fencing of the younger kids and leaving the older one open. Like this one. And what this one also does is similar to now, it provides an intermediary area where it can be shaded for seating, a picnic table, and that kind of thing, using that arbor area differently than it is now.
Yeah.
To provide what people wanted.
Yeah.
Shade for seating, a picnic table and that kind of thing, and not necessarily having the way that we have now, the picnic table in the children's play area, which gives us more room to actually have stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think
Um,
that the,
I would think
I
having
think that the,
that area would be good. Because that way people can sit. I don't see a big demand for, I didn't read all this, this is great to have picnics.
Oh, no, the people
over-
ask for place to sit and eat. And so you have regular bench seating that people ask
Yeah,
for,
Yeah.
and they
inside
wanted
and
it
out.
shaded.
Some
and-
inside,
Yeah.
I think it has to be fenced. I think people just want to have an area with the sand
Uh-huh.
and the fence for the little guys.
Yeah.
The little people. Yeah.
And so that makes sense. And I think that like shown here in this one, the sand area, and it could be integrated into, I mean, it can be moved into the little kids area
Yeah,
as opposed to being outside.
particularly all these things that look like sandboxes, which I would think is the least desirable.
Should-
So
So.
I
okay,
think
so
that
why
if-
don't we do that and go,
Go ahead, Scott.
I think that if, a good,
I think that if.
really
a
helpful for
good-
us would be,
really helpful for
and I can
us
send you
would be-
these,
and I can
renderings so
send
that you guys
these,
can mark them up
renderings so that
and
you
you
guys
can
can
spend a
mark
lot
them
more
up
time on
and-
them.
and
But I
spend a
think
lot
from
more time
here,
on
so we
them.
don't spend too
But I
much
think
time,
from here,
like
so we don't
Robert
spend
had
too much
mentioned,
time,
4 things that
Robert
would be
had
really
mentioned,
helpful is our thought on
really helpful
PIP, which is the
is
port
our
in place
thought on
surfacing,
PIP, which is the
versus the
port-in-place
EWF,
surfacing,
which is the wood
versus
chips.
the
Do we
EWF,
want
which is the
all wood chips? Do we want some
all wood
PIP?
chips? Do we want some
Um,
PIP?
You know, that direction, as well as the fence.
that
There's
direction,
gonna
as
be
well as the
fencing, there's no
fence.
doubt about it.
There's gonna be fencing,
It's
there's
a
no doubt
matter of
about
where
it.
do we want the
It's
fencing?
a
Do
matter
we
of
want the
where do we
entire
want the
playground
fencing?
fenced
Do
in?
we want the
Or
entire
do we
playground
want
fenced
just
in? Or
the
do we
younger
want
kid area
just
fenced in? And
the
that'll
younger
help
kid
with
area fenced
creating a
in? And that'll help
design,
with
knowing that
creating a
we're
design,
splitting them
knowing
up.
that
With
we're
the
splitting
other
them
thing
up.
is a common area. Do we want
thing
that
is a
common
common
sitting
area.
area
Do we
that,
want that
like Walt has
common sitting
mentioned, do we
area
want to
that,
maintain
like
that
Walt has
area
mentioned?
for
Do we
sitting
wanna
and not like
maintain
the
that
last
area for
concept
sitting and not like the
where
last
there isn't
concept
a sitting area? It's
where
kind of all
there
open, all
isn't a
fenced
sitting
in and
area,
all
it's kind of all
playable.
open, all
And the
fenced
parents
in
can
and
sit at the
all
benches
playable.
on the perimeter.
Parents can sit at the
Um,
benches on the perimeter.
So those things would be super helpful, as
So
well
those-
as
those things would be super helpful.
how
as
do we
well
feel
as
about the existing
how do
kind
we
of
feel about the
look of
existing
those
kind of
features? Are we in the
look of
ballpark?
those features? Are we in the ballpark?
That's kind of, those
Well,
4
let me
things would be
say,
super
That's
helpful.
kind of,
My-
those
my
four
view.
things would be super helpful.
That is, I don't like garish light green as far as the ballpark goes. I don't like a lot of space that's not being used. When I look over there, I don't see this middle area being used. I think it ought to be around the edges, except in the fenced-in area, because people want to be in where their 2-year-old is. He's going to fall down or something like that. So I like the concepts. Remind us, if you will, again, what the legal requirements are to be under, that is PIP versus the chips. what has to be under what? How high does it have to be and how far apart do things have to be?
So based off of these
So,
layouts you have
Based off
here,
of these layouts
it
you have
shows
here,
you this perimeter here,
it
which is
shows
kind
you
of
this
the
perimeter
area
here,
that
which
needs
is
to
kind
be,
of
you see
the
how
area
it's
that
right
needs to
here and
be-
it's
you see
it's
how
away from the curb.
right
You
here and
can't
it's
move
away
this whole
from the curb.
structure any
You
further
can't
that
move
way.
this whole structure any further that way.
So those fall zones are incorporated
So
into this
those fall
design
zones are
and
incorporated
how
into
they are
this
set up.
design and how they are set up.
So PIP would be
So
something that
PIP would be
everything would
something
have to be a
that-
level surface with PIP
everything would have
if
to
it's
be a level
incorporated with
surface with
the wood
PIP
fiber
if it's
chips, and
incorporated with
everything
the
would
wood
be to
fiber
ADA.
chips,
You
and
can
everything
put wood
would
fiber
be to
chips throughout the
ADA.
whole
You
thing,
can put wood
and it
fiber
would
chips
all be
throughout the
level
whole
with the
thing, and it
existing
would all be level
perimeter,
with the
the
existing
curbs and everything.
perimeter,
There can't be any offset of tripping hazards,
There
kind of
can't be
like the
any
younger
offset of
group is
tripping
now. You
hazards,
kind of have
like the
sand real
younger group
low,
is
you
now.
have the
You kinda
PIP
have
up
sand real
higher.
low, you have
Um,
the PIP up higher.
It just all needs to be
Um,
level.
It just all needs to be level.
So
So
let
the
me
PIP,
interject
they
for
do-
a second.
So the PIP, they do,
Sorry.
Yeah, Scott, let me interject for a second.
sorry.
So one of the answers to your question, Walt, in terms of open space and how much room you need, it's height driven. Height driven. So the higher the element is, the larger the fall zone. And so you can't have things in that fall zone. And that's those kind of cloud areas on this picture. And so again, the higher the element, the larger that zone. And the PIP versus the wood chip. The comments you got from folks is the PIP, it's cleaner, right? Meaning that it's easier for the little kids and all that stuff. It's long-term. It doesn't, I mean, it's harder to replace. And so kind of my suggestion, that's all it is, a suggestion, is kind of like, I'm going to say, different than like what we have now, but not quite the same, is that you put the PIP in select areas to facilitate access to certain things. Like, for example, if you're going to have that little crawling log for the 0 to 2-year-olds, that's a good area to have that PIP stuff.
But what if it's a two-story structure? Can it be PIP?
It can.
It can be.
Yeah, and so the PIP, it's a rubberized soft surface,
Yeah.
right? And so if you wanted to, like I think Nealon and other things, you can have the entire playground.
As
in
long as
the-
we go back for a supplemental budget, right?
Well, I would say there's a huge cost differential between the
Right.
poured in place versus the wood fiber.
That's what I said.
Okay. And so I think Scott said that the poured in place rubberized surfacing is roughly about $30 a square foot.
That's what he said. How about for chips?
And so for the chips, in
So the
essence, you
chips-
can almost do the entire
So the
playground
chips-
for about, I'm gonna say a quarter of the cost or less. Okay, so
Yeah,
it's a,
definitely.
it's a
Yeah,
large.
We've always
Yeah,
talked about doing a
definitely.
mixture. I think.
Yeah, and so I think what we had talked about before is some kind of mixture and just being selective rather than, doing the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
if you did
and
PIP,
Go ahead,
If you
Scott.
did PIP,
sorry, there's a delay, so it's killing me.
sorry,
If you
there's a
did
delay, so it's
PIP,
killing
it
me.
is based
If you
off of,
did
like Robert was
PIP,
saying,
it
the
is
fall
based
zone.
off
So
of,
the
like Robert was saying,
two-story
the fall zone.
areas
So the
is gonna be
two-story
about like 4
areas
inches of
is gonna be
PIP,
about
and
like
as you
4 inches
taper
of
off to
PIP,
the very
and as
far
you
edges, you
taper
may get
off
up to
to the
2
very
inches.
far edges, you may get up to 2 inches.
So you pay for that in that
So you pay for that
application.
in that application.
Okay.
Thickness. Okay.
Should we take public comment now and then
Yeah.
all the committee members?
Before we do
Okay.
that, I just I'm going to share an image of something that's more natural. It's quite a bit more expensive. So just keep that in mind. And so more expensive. So keep that in mind as I show you, and we can pick little pieces of things from one to another. Ideally, you go with one manufacturer, but sometimes, something inspires or whatnot. So this is that vent. I said that we had a last minute suggested vendor to look at. And so I'm just going to share that with you. Scott, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we haven't yet really had much of a conversation with this manufacturer, but here is, this is more actual wood. Okay.
Real wood?
This is more expensive.
Looks like the Stanford bonfire.
And so like I said, we need to price it out. So like this here would be like in lieu of stepstones, this is like, log steps, for example, is one type of element.
I mean, is the
Um,
price of this less expensive than going for the?
No,
fabric?
like I said, I haven't gotten, Scott got kind of pricing from the other two. I don't have pricing from this one. And so I need to get that information. We need to pick a couple of sample type structures to get that pricing. But this ship's actually from out of the country, so it's a little, it'll be more expensive just because you're shipping it farther as well.
And it's all handmade.
It's all handmade.
And so, again, so some of these things this is a huge structure that probably we wouldn't want. But it is more of that real natural look.
Yeah, I like the natural look.
And so like I said, maybe what we do is get a couple of pieces from this one, but let us get some more information to share.
Okay. Why don't we take a public comment? If you have any on the subject? Do you have any public comment? Okay, go ahead.
You can go ahead over here,
I-
Ken, and then I'm going to say, don't
I had
forget
one
that.
question.
Oh, okay. Why don't we let Ken sit down and you can go ahead with your question, Bob?
One of the things that seemed that people ask about was a place to sit down in the shade. So if I bring children, my
Mhm.
grandchildren, to this place to play, where do I sit in shade?
Okay, so that is, I'm gonna say, once we figure out where we put stuff, what you want, I think that there was a couple of concepts that kind of left that center area between the younger kids and the older kids, like we have now. There is seating and an arbor now in between, and
Are
so
you
there's
talking-
two types of, let me pull
Talking
up
about the
a,
gray area in the presentation?
what's that?
You're talking about the gray area?
Yeah.
In the presentation?
Okay, so it doesn't
Seemed
have the
awfully
shades.
large.
Huh?
Just hit me as being awfully large.
Yeah, so what we need to do is figure that out. I think that there was one of the concepts showed log seating with shade sails over it. Probably not going to do the
So-
log seating, but having shade sails in that area or an arbor
Yeah.
with benches and a picnic table.
Okay, so the shading, sitting place that was
Yeah.
reacted by a lot of people is yet to be determined.
Yeah, and then on the perimeter, we're going to have, as Walt said, seating inside the
Younger kids.
children's play area.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
need to think, we seriously need to think about shading that seating as well.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ken.
Ken Frederick from Lindenwood. I'm here as me, Ken Frederick, and also as kind of a discussion of the things we had in the senior task force, which is not an official committee, but a bunch of people working together. And I would propose that we should take a deep breath and stop the effort for a while. For a lot of reasons. And one factual reason, by the way, is that I don't agree with the speaker that the number of responses we got was significantly matches what's required. If you have the number of people we do this in this town, you need 400 to 500 responses. We got 70 people from Atherton. And when you go to that survey, which a lot of my friends did, and my friends and I went in the survey, the first thing you get is, do you have kids that you've taken to the playground? That's the first thing they ask. And if you didn't, you stopped. So what you got is people that went to the playground, not people that didn't go to the playground. And in that survey was never asked, do you think we should do this? Or what will it cost? No one ever knew what it would cost. Or whether there's another alternative. And I would ask myself, if I were in the Park and Rec Committee, which I'm not, I would say to myself, if I had $1.2 million, is this what I would do in the park? Is this the highest priority the park has? And I put this against, you may have noticed recently, the county of San Mateo announced that we have a loneliness epidemic and that it's a real health hazard. The county of San Mateo did not announce a lack of playground epidemic. There are playgrounds around this place like you can't believe. And when this playground was built, there weren't very many. Now there's a lot. One of the background things that was never done on this thing was, is there a need? Now, there is a need for something in Atherton, but how big and how many? With the people I've talked to say they really like the small play for little kids, but after that, not a lot. In addition, and Rick may or may not agree with this, but I think I heard when I was here at the town council meeting in January, when the senior committee gave their presentation and talked about what happened, one of the plea was, hey, before you spend all this money, think about other things that if you're going to do something for recreation, like a playground, think of other things that might be in it, not just for kids. And one of them could be exercise and strength and balance and things for seniors. And I thought I heard, maybe I'm wrong, Rick, I thought I heard the council say, well, before we rush off and do this only for kids, let's step back a second and think about what else might be in it. So the thing I don't understand is what the charter is here. Is it, we got $1.2 million, let's spend it, and we're gonna spend it only on a kids playground? Is that the charter? Or is the charter, we're trying to think of what we should do in the facility, and what should it be? Behind this, the town, as you may know, is about to spend a lot of money to do a survey for the entire town, which will include Hobart Palmer. And I wonder, we're rushing off to spend $1.2 million, and we never did a study about which should we do it. We're spending $50,000 on a pickleball study before we spend any money at pickleball. We could build a pickleball court for $50,000. So my whole question is, I would recommend that you guys take a deep look at this and say, interesting, let's study it. But before we go off and spend this money, let's think about this is the right thing to do. That's my comment.
This fiscal year, the council has budgeted, I think, 200,000 for the planning of a children's park. So we're just doing the planning for this fiscal year. And then if the council chooses, they can approve $1 million or whatever the budget will be for a playground.
But we don't have to spend it just because it's budgeted. Right?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I can't say anymore, right?
No, Rick was just
No, yeah, yeah.
Rick was just clarifying that you don't necessarily respond to public comments.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Sorry, yeah, you got, you're right. But all I'm saying is, I think we just have to take a step back and think, what does it really want to do? And if you had $1.2 million, if I were you guys, is that where I spend my money? I'm not arguing it wasn't the right idea. I understand it was all very sincere and good things to do. Obviously, what's there needs to be repaired or changed. But what should it really be was never really part of the survey. It was, we're gonna do this.
Okay,
Tell our neighbors.
thank you, Ken.
Thanks.
Okay, shall we, go ahead.
I was just gonna give some comments.
Okay.
I think that we all need to get a copy of those slides.
Yeah.
And I think we want to take time to go through them because it was good to see it here, but there's a lot of detail and I think what we want to pull out of it are a couple things. One is there's different elements like shade, where rather than trying to choose a pre-designed design, I'd like to have, these are the shade options. What do you think about them? And look at the different options, because I think there's some fairly different options. And same for benches. These are the bench options. And maybe do that in each of the different things. So I went through the question that said, what, when you visit the playground, this is the current playground, which of the features do you like the most? And we just got the list of the 123 respondents and what they said. And I went through them and aggregated how many chose this and how many chose that.
We should have shared with you the word cloud that.
Oh, you have it.
They put it into a program and it generated the word cloud.
But
yeah.
it's right along the lines of what Robert was
Yeah.
basically saying as we went through it. But I think that there's some of these things like swings and slides, they could be for different age groups. But I think we should go through each item and say, and after we've looked at the images, what do we like? What kind of image do we like? I don't want to feel pushed to have to choose one of the pre-existing images. I think it's more, we're going to be designing the
Yeah,
thing.
so let me say, these images are just sample images.
Yeah,
And we are trying to gauge kind of scale wise what we think. And ultimately, I think we're going to try and come up with two, maybe on the outside, 3 different real concepts that we can get directed feedback from the public via this committee or via a survey or through a public, you know, if you had to pick, which one of these would you pick? What do you like about this versus that? And so I don't think this committee is going to end up picking the final layout without getting that kind of public input.
no, I'm sure of that, but this committee's going to want to give input.
Yeah,
as
no,
to
no,
what it
and
thinks.
that's what we want. So we'll package the slide deck that we have along with some additional information, as you suggested, of kind of options of types of shade structures or types of benches. And they may not be the final ones, but it's like, okay, sage shale versus arbor, for example, as terms of shade structure type, that kind of thing. And so it's great that you brought that up. And I think that it's too much to ask for that kind of feedback on the spot, and we know that. And so, like I said, this is more to kind of get the mind flowing. We'll provide you with that information. And if we can get that feedback from you individually, we'll aggregate it, meet with the subcommittee and kind of try and dial it in a little bit.
Robert, why the comment that you need instructions to order equipment by March?
Oh, no,
I
we
thought
don't
we
need
were just
instructions to
designing
order.
this
No,
through
no.
June.
So what I was hoping to do, and maybe it's a little too aggressive, is to get refined concepts based on feedback for you to again talk around at your next meeting.
Sure.
If it will take the companies a couple of weeks to kind of, once we give them direction, to kind of re-render stuff. And so the sooner we get that feedback, the sooner we have that subcommittee meeting, the sooner we can get that information to the manufacturers for them to draw something up.
But as Rick says, I think
Alternatively.
this is going to be a long process.
Oh, it is. And we're not going to be ordering anything for a while. Okay. What I'm trying to do is see how we can get closer to defining what these concepts actually look like.
And we do recall that there will be no construction in the summer because we know the construction companies go to schools and do
Yeah.
things like that. That was the concept. So if we come up with a design by June, and would we put it out to bid before June, even though we don't have it in the?
No, the budget's
Budget?
going to be in July, and I think that
Mess.
I'm going to say, but if we work backwards to get a design done by June,
Yeah.
we should already have picked something by March so that it can be fully designed. So even that's going to be pushing it. So we're not going to be there. But what I'm trying to do is see how we can focus the conversation to get closer to picking that concept so that we can get public input.
I'd like to go through
Uh,
what Rick says.
Yeah.
And go no farther than that by March. I
That's
think
fine.
that's going to take a lot of effort. And I think we're going to have a couple of subcommittee meetings. We don't have a lot of time before March. One's got to be
Yeah,
next week.
so,
or
yeah,
whatever.
so I'm gonna say this, being realistic, I know Scott's kind of trying to chime in, so I apologize, Scott. It may be that we don't have those concepts till the April meeting.
Yeah, and I'd like to know, the pricing. I'd like to have this and where Scott says it's gonna cost $800,000 and we have an overrun possibility, contingency. Then I could say to Rick, look, we did a great job here for you. But if it's gonna come in
So-
at 1.1,
And that's
it's not
that
so
balance,
good.
like I say, that's that balancing act
Yeah.
on how big a structure you pick, how many elements we have, and how much PIP versus the engineered fiber, because all of those things have cost implications.
so,
And so before, Scott actually got a couple of price quotes. I didn't want to share them because we're so far away from what we're going to do that those prices don't mean anything.
yeah, and Scott asked, what concept would you like? Would you like it essentially to fit more gracefully in the park? Or have these 2 and 3, especially 3-tiered structures? And I think we learned that from this survey. People don't want, this is not something we're gonna try to pull people from Redwood City and Menlo Park to come and see as a grand playground.
Yeah, and so that's, like I said, there was that climbing tower that doesn't really fit thematically. They just kind of threw it in as that concept. And so what I'm hearing is like, okay, we should probably stick to no more than 2 tiers high. Which is helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Bob had that comment.
I was just gonna ask we have a survey. Now, you can say it's a good survey, it's a lousy survey, there's not enough people. We've heard that from one person. But are we gonna address any of the things that people said they desire? And if we would come up with 2 options, let's say, I know we were talking about maybe a couple of options that would fulfill what we're trying to do. Would they also have to meet the higher ones that were asked for, like places to sit, shade, and some of the ones
Yeah,
that were
and so that's.
higher response to?
Yeah, and so that's where this committee comes in terms of transforming that feedback towards those concepts. And so we will,
Yeah.
as staff and the designer, will bring those things to you. And then you will either give thumbs up, thumbs down, pick
Yeah.
A versus B to try and get that close
Yeah.
to what we think the public wants.
The survey may not be as many respondents as we would have liked. Could be, but we did get
Yeah.
a fairly
No,
good
a
number.
fair
And
number.
the high ones that people bring in, whatever committee is looking at options should see that those things are covered in some way.
Mhm.
Because all these aren't complete that were shown, but I don't think any of them met my requirement to bring the kids and drop them off and sit down in the shade.
Yeah, so that,
Fair
No,
point.
Shade was a
Yeah, so
big
that-
comment.
The people-
No, no, shade,
know.
shade was a
And the
huge
people I
comment.
talked to, they want shade, but there's no shade in any of these that we have so far. But these are not a concept. These are just things that you could think about.
yeah,
And
But
so
and
like I
that,
said, we
I
haven't
think-
laid anything
Yeah,
out
yeah,
for
I
I want
sure
to just keep,
for,
I just want to let us
Yeah.
remember that we have one survey. We can have another one if we want, but
Mhm.
we do have one, and we should take a look at what the key elements are and not just skip them. That's all.
and what we
Thank you.
put in there,
And what we put in there.
what the concept showed,
What the
and from the
concept
survey, those key
showed,
elements.
And from the
From
survey,
the
those
word
key
cloud of what
elements.
people wanted were
the
really
word
those
cloud
monkey
of what
bars, the
people wanted
swings,
were
the
really
sand
those monkey
pit, the
bars, the
drinking
swings,
fountain,
the
those types of
sand
things.
pit, the drinking
And
fountain,
really
those types of
importantly,
things.
shade.
And really
There will
importantly,
be shade,
There will
absolutely
be
more shade than what you saw here. That's what
absolutely
Robert
more
was
shade
getting
than
at,
what
is
you
is
saw here.
really
That's what Robert was
what
getting at,
do
is
we
really
want and where will
what
we
do
put it?
we
And then the
want
shade will
and
cover
where will
those
we put it? And
areas
then the shade
of
will cover
where
those
we need it.
areas
Being on the
of
younger
where
side,
we
really,
need it.
there's a lot of
Being
shade
on the
needed.
younger side,
There,
really,
from what it
there's a lot of
sounds
shade
like,
needed.
there will be a
There,
common
from what it
sitting area,
sounds
I
like,
think,
there will be a common sitting
is,
area, I
is
think.
probably a good idea for our
It-
concept to
it's probably
include.
a good idea for our concept to include.
So I've taken that feedback
Okay,
and
So
then
I've taken that
really the
feedback and then-
PIP,
Really, the
what do you guys
PIP,
feel about PIP?
what do you guys
Is that
feel
the
about
survey,
PIP?
you know,
Is
with
that
every
the
survey
survey,
answer
with every
that somebody
survey
wanted, there was a
answer that somebody
contradicting
wanted, there was a
response to
contradicting
that. You know, there were
response
some
to
people that
that.
didn't
You
want
know,
sand pits,
there
or if
were
somebody
some people
wanted
that didn't want
a
sand pits,
common
or if
sitting
somebody
area with
wanted
shade, some
a
people
common
didn't
sitting
want
area with
picnic
shade,
tables to
some
take up
people didn't
space
want picnic tables
as
to
you go
take up
through that
space.
survey.
as you go through that survey.
Yeah,
So should we go around the table and say what each committee member wants to give us feedback and then we can conclude?
well,
this?
I'm going to say, my suggestion, I'll follow Councilmember DeGolia, is we'll provide you with the presentation, slide deck, and some additional information. Take it and provide feedback after you've had some time to digest. And to Scott's question, I think the answer is that we will have some PIP, but it'll likely be minimized. It's not going to be covering entire play areas.
No.
And so
And PIP is.
is the rubberized surfaces.
Rubberized stuff,
It's poured in place rubber
Yeah.
surface.
poured in place.
I feel that PIP is probably only, PIP is needed for the younger kids. So they have kind of a, they don't have the wood chips they're falling into and getting splinters in, but yeah. But for the older kids, they can go with wood chips. Yeah. Okay, so we'll
Can I
get
ask
that.
one more question?
Go ahead.
Of those images that were shown, was the footprint of the images at all in relationship to the footprint of where the playgrounds are right now?
Generally speaking, the answer to your question is yes. However, the first one did not fully utilize the available space.
Okay.
And
But
so
neither of them expanded well beyond what we already have.
not much.
Okay. Great.
Okay,
Okay,
move
thank you,
on.
Scott. Appreciate it.
thanks. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you guys. I
let's move on
appreciate
to
it and
5C.
apologize for that delay. It was really messing me up.
Okay, thank you. I am happy to report that the pickleball trial has officially started. Weather has impacted all court usage, tennis, pickleball, everything else. And so I'll highlight a couple of things. So we did do the striping. We put in the pickleball nets that are rollable to move out of the way and bring in. I'm gonna share a couple of screens here in just a second. What's that? I'm gonna say not much. I think that in January you have in your report, we've
9
talked
hours.
to Player Capital about giving us the information on reservations. So in January, I think we started like the 22nd or something like that. Through the end of the month, it was about 8 hours total. Not a whole hell of a lot, but with the sporadic weather that we've been having, it is what it is. So I'm gonna highlight here. So Player Capital revised their reservation system. So this is today. And I'm gonna say people made reservations. I don't know how many people actually played today.
It rained, definitely rained.
So
Bob has a
I see
reservation.
Bob's name here, and Bob said you made the reservation, but because of weather, you didn't play, right?
And we have no way to check that, do we?
No, we don't. Yeah, okay, so
But this is tennis.
what? Yeah. Then we can talk to Michael about that. And so what I'm going to show is today pickleball
Bob,
was
would you turn on
available
your
in the
speaker
morning.
So that
Right.
it gets properly recorded and so I can hear it. Thank you.
Oh, your mic's not on.
Press the button.
Punch the button.
Green too.
There you go.
It has to be green.
I was just saying that sometimes you have a hard time getting out of the reservation if you get close to it, because you find out you're not going to play for some reason, and I'd like to be able to clear it for somebody else. There hasn't been much of a problem in the time I've been around with people finding a court, and Michael has even been taking courts off of his own that he has blanked out and let other people play on them. And then doubled up on other ones when he was really filled up. But the weather's been pretty difficult to tell anything.
So I'm just going to highlight kind of how the reservation system works. So today, as with every day, morning availability of the pickleball courts, it is shared with Court 1. So Court 1 you'll see is closed up until noon. And then So that's here on the left side. And then on the right side is pickleball courts 1 and pickleball court 1, pickleball court 2, which utilize tennis court 1. And so you have the availability to make the reservation in the AM.
I see.
And then
That's
tomorrow,
what that is over on the far right.
yeah, and so it's closed for reservation in the afternoon when.
No,
it's
I
supposed to be
understand,
open.
but nobody made a reservation.
Nobody made a reservation today. So if I can, I'm going to try and click over to tomorrow. You'll see that there are no pickleball reservations tomorrow. Pickleball is reservable on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning and in the afternoon.
But a pickleball player has to have a key,
They have to have a
make
key.
a reservation. And I happened to ask the people who were playing pickleball and they didn't have a key. So.
I don't know how they're well,
How did they get in? Somebody let them in.
I don't know. You can't make a reservation and you shouldn't
Yeah,
be able to
right.
get in. The keys
can always
are
get in.
being changed next week.
Yeah.
And I know Bob came in to buy his keys. So the current keys won't work anymore after
Anymore,
next week.
Yeah, then we'll get a good look at what's going on. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is the reservation system. We talked about the nets and the courts and stuff, and then one thing I will also share is put in a couple of noise monitors at the park. It's, I'll call it illustrative, and I will have you note a few things. So we have two. One is on the Little League building, and the other one is at the clay court. So kind of measuring noise on the two sides. This information is, I'll call it pre-baffling, right? Because we have an order that is being placed for the baffling material to put some soundproofing between court 1, court 2, and court 4, I think. I think those are the
Or
numbers.
Between 6 and.
6 and 1 and 1 and 2. Yeah.
1
Uh,
to 2 and 1 to 6.
So you'll see a whole bunch of peaks on this chart.
Yeah.
And some of those are at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's
Train.
not because
The train.
people are playing tennis or pickleball. It's because of the train.
There are no lights.
So-
They're really good.
And so I'm going to say a good chunk of those big peaks are related to the train. This here, I think, is today and maybe yesterday. Nobody was playing pickleball today. Barely anybody was playing
Mhm.
tennis. And so most of the black line is the average. And the average is somewhere around 60 decibels. This evening, it looks like it got, this afternoon at 4 o'clock, it was a little louder, but the average around 60, 70. It peaks out higher, but our speculation at this point is that it's related to the trains.
So this is recorded so that we can go back and see when the reservation was made and.
Yeah,
then
and so
pick-
this
pick
is
the
where
hour.
I will ask somebody that has a bunch of free time and likes playing with data. Happy to download the information. The reservation time periods are available online. And if somebody wants to overlay stuff,
A trusted source too. No one who's a partisan on the pickleball and tennis side.
okay. Personally, I don't have the time to do that. I'm happy. We're going to be monitoring
Yeah.
it to a degree, and we can pick a couple of spot times to take a look with the enactment of the quiet zone. We're hoping that those
Yeah.
peaks will drop.
Yeah.
And so just for informational purposes, and else you could share it with the committee, we've sent out our notice of, did I say that?
No, you haven't told me yet.
Yeah,
Notice of
we sent
establishment?
out our notice of establishment with an effective date of the 1st.
Okay.
Of
Of March.
1st of March.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that that'll start to taper off.
Right when the weather clears up. So that'd be a good time to.
So,
What- What kind of baffling material was ordered?
we ordered the it's from Acoustablock. Block. It's Acoustifence, Fence, and they have they trademarked another name for the same material calling Pickle Block. So it's,
That's about $30,000, isn't it?
yeah.
No, that's the low end.
No, that was the higher end baffling
Was it?
material. Yeah.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
When will that go up, Robert?
I think the order was placed, so it's going to be a few weeks till we get it in. But I think we will have to pick when we want to put it in, because my personal preference, and this is certainly feedback that I'd like from the committee, is to have a period of time where pickleball is actually being played
Yeah.
before we put it up, so that we can gauge that noise level.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
It's gonna be some
Right.
fun, yeah.
And because if I had it today and I put it up today, you wouldn't be able to get
No,
it
you
before
get
and after.
nothing, yeah.
Do we care so much about before and after as we care about what the effect is in these areas with it? up there? 'Cause we're
What I'm
have it
gonna
up there
get at is
anyway.
that if I don't know what the before looks like, it's kind of hard to see what the effect is.
Okay, I
Meaning
thought
that
it was
is it- how
instead, the
effective-
important thing is, what is the noise level? It measured either decibels, the other way to measure this too, as I understand it, of the neighbors and of people in the park.
Yeah.
And people in the park, I don't think are gonna change, because you're putting up the baffling on the walls that
Well,
won't change that.
Yeah, yeah, so where we put them up, like I said, is up on the Little League building.
Yeah.
It's a little high. And then in the behind the chain link fence at the clay court. And we looked at maybe putting it closer to the properties.
The
but
baffling?
No, the
sound
sound.
monitor.
Oh, sure.
No, no,
What,
no.
isn't it right up on the edge of the, I missed where you're putting that one.
Okay, it's up. And so it's in the clay court, there's a chain link fence, and then behind the chain link fence, there's a wood fence.
Yeah,
And it's a 9-foot tall fence. So we actually put it on the wood fence behind the chain link, so it's
Okay.
protected,
closest to the neighbor.
closest to the neighbor. There's actually another
Fence.
6
Then-
or 8 feet back. There's another fence, but it's lower,
Okay.
okay?
There's 3 fences?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 2
Two.
wood and one, yeah, so.
Oh,
if
I
we-
see the chain and. the
Yeah, so
wood
if
and
I
wood.
put it on
Right.
the property line
Yeah.
fence,
Okay.
you have a wood fence right in front of it blocking the sound,
I see.
okay? And so we figured it's better to have it on the court side. And that actually will help us kind of gauge also the impact, the benefit to the tennis players. Kind of that. If that makes sense. So we'll let you know when we get the material in. We'll work on scheduling that as well. But the trial is up and running.
Okay. great.
Keys are for sale.
Thank you.
So anybody from the public is interested in buying their tennis keys, they're available. Reminder for residents, it's $100, gets you access to both the hard court, the clay court, and utilization of the pickleball is court 1. And you have access, once you buy the key, you have access to all
Okay.
courts.
I'd like to ask the subcommittee for pickleball if they could start thinking about
Survey.
how to measure the results of the pickleball trial, whether they want to do surveys in the middle, survey at the end, and other ways to measure that, we can report back to the council when we're finished with the trial.
All right. Let me stop sharing that. I don't know if you want to get input from Julie.
Yeah, if Julie or.
Oh, she's
She's
not,
gone?
she fell off, I think.
That's okay. But if you can email Noah
Yeah.
and Julie, then yeah.
Okay, will do.
Are there any other comments or public comments on pickleball that people want to make?
Have you guys gone, visited the, like the service club and stuff, the service club has pickleball court?
Yes, they have.
Have you
pickleball.
gone visited them and talked to them and seen it?
Trisha has many
I have
times.
also,
Okay.
Oh, but yeah. Oh, do you want to?
but as, well, again, we don't get it.
Oh,
public
yes.
Comment.
We
so
can't, sorry.
Happy to chat offline.
Okay, if there's no other comments on pickleball, we can move on to 5D, the
I do.
event management?
So as you all are aware, Cater Two has left us. We we went to the city council last month to get some feedback on issuance of a request for proposal and kind of what to do in the interim. With the council's direction, we actually hired a temp part-time to help us manage reservations, show the facilities, et cetera. So she's been with us for a couple of weeks now, part-time. And so that's a gap filler. We're going to be going back to the council at their next regular meeting this month for authorization to release the request for proposals for event services.
Okay. And
Okay.
then when would you would hire them and then you would arrange?
Yeah,
when
well,
that
we would
start?
release a request for proposals. It'll be posted and available for response for a period of time. They'll come back, they'll get graded or scored, for lack of a better way to put it.
So soonest is probably
It,
summer.
it won't be till this summer, yeah.
Okay, okay. Any questions or comments on this from the committee? Okay, let's go on to capital improvement.
Okay, so this is your opportunity to talk about potential future project recommendations to the council. And they can range from things that you know about our facilities that may need attention, things that you know about at the park, or a recommendation such as you got from the public to kind of do some additional outreach to guide some of those thoughts.
So I asked for this to be put on the agenda, and what I wanted to do, if there's any projects that we feel we should bring up to the council's attention to be in the next fiscal year, now's the time to do so, so that it can be presented to the council as they do their budgeting for the upcoming fiscal year. So the only thing I believe that we have definitely planned is a budget for the playground. That's on the next fiscal year's budget, but I don't think there's any other park projects, major ones, maybe some ones like the
Well,
charging
we
stations. are
talked
probably
for
might go
many
in.
months about doing something with the pavilion.
Yeah,
Is
so,
that a major project or not?
yeah,
Yeah,
this is
and
the
so
time.
this is your opportunity
Yeah.
to say, we want money to do new flooring at the pavilion, to repaint it, change out some of the light fixtures, that kind of thing. That way we have a little bit of time to kind of price that stuff out and get that.
So I'm hoping we could all make some suggestions if we have any, and then decide on, 1 to 2 things or more that we think the council should approve for the next fiscal year.
I see it as very tough, I may be wrong, to get in somebody to replace Cater Two. Somebody will come in and say, what was the revenue last year with them? Why should I come into this? The answer, of course, is going to be, well, now we have the circulation plan done, and so it's upgraded. And if we could say also, we're upgrading some of these facilities, I think we have a much better chance of A, getting somebody, and B, actually renting out these facilities again. And it'll also help when locals here. I mean, I've been to memorial services there of family members and so on. I mean, just making it a nicer place, because that is the center of a large space. I think the library is now the center of this community. Yeah.
Is there any specific renovation you want to suggest?
Well, we talked about it each time.
The wood flooring? Okay.
Yeah, better floor.
Whether it's synthetic, whether it's
Yeah, so my guess would be some sort of engineered wood
Engineered
floor.
wood. Yeah, it would
waterproof system.
look better than the carpet.
Yeah.
It's kind of dated right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so do we have to take a vote, or you get the,
No, I say this, like I said, this is we were requested to put it on your docket for discussion, and so that's what we're doing. It's always good to get your collective feedback as we bring recommendations forward to the council.
I mean, we went through this, remember, piece
Yeah,
by
no, when
piece,
I'm gonna say that.
restrooms and other things. I don't know if that's. a
Yeah, and
major
so I'm
capital
going to say
improvement.
that as we go through this process and you got the directed feedback from the public, that second project, as Walt is alluding to, may be the bathroom replacement,
But
the playground bathrooms.
The
Oh, I didn't
bathroom
mean
near
that. I
the
meant in the
playground.
house.
Yeah.
I met in a house that there were, a
Jennings
number of
Pavilion.
things that we had that needed to be worked on.
Yeah, no, and yeah, so
And
some of
then-
those are minor maintenance things,
Yeah.
and so I wouldn't put those on the capital.
Okay, well, no
stuff.
question, it's the bathrooms. I
Yeah.
mean, that's number one in this whole game, just from what we see.
In the
response.
main house or?
No.
No, he's
Back to
talking
the
about the playground.
Oh, the playground
bathrooms.
bathroom.
As
Yeah, yeah,
Robert
I
said,
agree.
we have to go
Oh, yes.
separately.
Right,
Yeah.
and so when we talk about, fixing up the pavilion is something that's important. And then I think the next big ticket item is probably the replacement of the playground bathrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're part of the project. They're not part of the playground.
Well, we are
Mhm.
looking at
They
what we
might be.
should, I'm gonna say,
Depends.
what we've included is the design aspect. What
Oh, okay.
could
okay,
we or should we put in?
Okay, yeah.
And so you guys will be talking about that.
Yeah.
But the budget that we have doesn't cover replacement of
Okay,
the
so we'll
facility.
have it as, if we want to have it as one.
If we want to.
Well, we did the survey and the clear secondary item coming out of the survey was that a lot of people felt that the bathroom
Yeah.
should be replaced.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Okay.
so, well, it's a CIP issue, certainly. It's it's probably, I don't know how the council will look at it, but I would guess that it'll be viewed as connected to the playground replacement.
Okay.
And they can up the budget next
Well,
fiscal
it's
year.
gotta
for
be
it.
up.
Yeah,
for the
no,
budget
and so
for
that's
Playground.
part of the effort is
Yeah.
that hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll get kind of a budgetary estimate of what a bathroom will cost. Maybe maybe not next meeting, but the meeting after, we'll show you a couple of concepts of bathrooms. So you can kind of talk about, there's some decisions that'll have to be made in terms of, are there individual stalls versus communal bathrooms like we have now with multiple stalls? Do we include family bathroom, family restroom that has kind of, I'll call it, say, kind of like the library, smaller fixtures for
For
the
little
kids?
Yeah.
And those kinds of things, and then the aesthetic aspect as well.
Okay.
To kind of help us at least put a dollar number for the budgetary request.
That's really good.
So we got wood flooring for Jennings and the replacement bathroom for the, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know where this fits because it's kind of been a carryover item. But we've had the bathrooms in the carriage house.
Yeah, that's something that we have. We actually still have money in the budget. We just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, so, and part of the reason that we haven't gotten there is we couldn't get it bid because it was too small a project.
Well, it's also a historic building that we have to get an appropriate architect to kind of design as well.
I was
so
gonna
it's a
say,
little-
well, if it's too small a project, maybe we could find somebody that would do both the bathroom, the playground and the carriage house,
Yeah,
but they're really quite
special.
different.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'd be a little concerned about getting a playground guy to do a historic building bathroom.
I think we also ought to remember, I see a lot of people use those bathrooms out by the playground.
Yeah.
They're not, anything to do with the playground. It's just
No,
people
no,
who
well,
walk
I'm gonna
around.
say that is
Yeah.
the main bathroom
Yeah.
at the park.
Yeah.
The secondary one is at the Little League field
And-
by the tennis courts.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Are there any other? Go ahead. Yeah, you can make a public comment. Yes, you may.
I like your idea. Key for the bathroom would solve the problem.
I did not give him that idea.
So this, surprisingly enough, is a little out of left field. At several other committees, meetings, the senior and also ADAPT, there's been some discussions about what do you do when the town loses power across the town residents, and then the town center loses power. Okay, so in an emergency, which we got through the other day, if you lose your power at home and the town has power, not an issue because you can come here, use this room, you can use the lobby, you can use the library and library hours, whatever. But if you lose power and the town loses power, the town's only emergency generator is over there. and it serves only the police department and here. So the library doesn't have power. Jennings doesn't have power. And so as a resident, you have nowhere to go other than Menlo Park or somewhere else.
No, this room.
If it's not being used.
Wow.
Well, but I mean, as the last year I came here to use it. And of course, since there's no power in the town center, this is the only room for everyone in the town center. So, you know, I hear what you're saying. In an emergency, absolutely. But if you lose power for, 5 days or 7 days, or that probably doesn't work. One of the options is the town is looking at putting in emergency generator for the library or connecting a river. But the other alternative is do one for the pavilion. So the pavilion would become the emergency center for residents when there's an outage.
Yeah.
It has some advantages, is that it's on its own, doesn't conflict with this. And it's probably a much cheaper way to put in emergency power.
And instead of a generator, a battery instead? Like,
No, no, no.
Powerwalls?
Well,
Well, I don't want
well,
to.
no, but well,
But
it's public comment right now.
Yeah.
So if you want to finish, go
If you're-
ahead.
when you're done.
Let me finish, but let me address that. What you would do for emergency generator is a broad scope.
Mhm.
And you'd have to look at it, but all I'm asking, I mean, it could be from a $200,000 Tesla battery wall, to a $25,000 natural gas generator or something. But so the question I might just raising says, you might consider just saying, hey, should we consider looking at the Jennings Pavilion as an outage center for the citizens to go to? What would it be? What would it cost, et cetera? That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Rick, you had a comment?
Yeah, so, Peninsula Clean Energy has a couple programs, one of which is, to put solar on 20 different, municipal buildings, that are, agencies that are part of, Peninsula Clean Energy, and Atherton is one of those. And they are putting solar panels on this whole facility.
Yeah.
So at some point, it hasn't come before the council yet, the idea of battery backup for those solar panels will come and will expand the capability of where there is power, either in the library or here, during emergencies. There is a second program that is just launching now, that is much more extensive than the first program, which Atherton is part of the first program. And we proposed in the second program to put solar on the pavilion. And the pavilion's a pretty good place to put
Yeah,
solar
yeah.
because there's
Not-
no trees right around that building.
It's got a
It's
lot of
quite a
roof
large
area.
roof.
Yeah.
It's an easy roof, right? It's easier than this roof. So I'm not sure whether the pavilion was included in that second proposal. But I think that we should look into that.
I can answer.
Oh, okay, you know.
So, I'm gonna hit the thing. So maybe next time we have this item on the agenda, we will provide the current CIP with its look ahead. And so in that look ahead actually was resiliency for the pavilion.
Okay.
Okay, solar, battery, something like that. With respect to the PCE program, we applied for the pavilion. They basically said the usage wasn't enough to justify it.
Okay.
And so keep in mind that the park facilities, the actual uses of those buildings are nominal in terms of how much energy. The pavilion is only used really for rentals.
Yeah.
If we don't have rentals, it's not being used.
Yeah.
And so the resiliency portion is really for like what you heard from public comment.
Okay.
It's not because there's a huge amount of power that we're gonna drop the energy costs on.
But that's not the point, is it?
No,
We want a place for the residents to go.
No, but the point is just a cost issue.
right.
Because if you're gonna use that power, then it's cost justifiable. That's what,
I
see,
see, yeah.
that building would have been totally eligible for solar panels. It's much easier than these buildings to
Right.
put solar panels on.
But for
But-
them, it's not
but-
cost
But
effective.
it's
The
not
cost of
cost
putting
effective
that up
because
plus
there's
a-
no use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
while I don't think their program had batteries. I think it was just solar, right?
It's just solar, but like I said, I mean, we applied for that.
Yeah.
And they basically.
But
said-
there's a new program that's about to be launched where they're going, well, there's two new programs that have been launched. You're probably aware of them. They just sent out an email yesterday where the PCE had $128 million of revenue in excess of costs. Now, I advocated that means that we charged more than we needed to charge, and those costs should be returned to the ratepayers. But that wasn't.
But that doesn't happen.
That wasn't the decision of the board. The board decided to do a variety of things with that money, one of which is to create, I think it's about a $20 million fund that the 21 agencies or 22 agencies can apply to. And there's a dollar amount associated with that, and you have 2 years to be able to apply. And they're sending an email. They may have already sent it.
I don't
giving
recall seeing it.
so
but
at-
we'll-
Giving Atherton the
Atherton
amount.
gets a percentage
not-
or?
Yeah, we
it's a-
get some percentage
Okay.
based on our total electricity usage as a percentage of the whole.
Okay, so we
So-
could use some of that to.
Yeah,
pay
it's
for-
a small amount of $20 million, but $20 million is a good sized amount of money. So I don't know, maybe $1 million.
Is that 20 millions every year or just 20
No,
million?
no,
So
one-time
one-time
deal.
One-time deal.
But they're also actively launching a program to put batteries into residents and businesses, and exactly how that program is structured, I don't know. But what I have advocated is that these batteries be made available to residents and businesses at no cost. That they will be financed by PC on a 0% loan that people will finance but essentially it's a no-cost battery deployment throughout the territory.
Okay.
And they only make sense if people have solar,
Yeah.
right? The batteries don't make sense otherwise. But if people have solar that don't have batteries, and there's like 4,000 different businesses or households that have solar and no batteries in our jurisdiction, then it makes a lot of sense. And PCE can do it for what's effectively free by taking some control over that battery. For us in the park, that's irrelevant. We don't mind them taking control over the battery all the time. They're gonna push the power from the day to the evening, which is when they want the power. And that's a big benefit for them. When my guess is when they looked at the second tranche, they didn't look at the battery piece, but maybe now that could get reconsidered. So.
Okay. Should,
It's being launched now. It'll be, it takes time to get any program actually happening, but it'll be this year.
Oh, really? But when will we have ours on the roof here?
They're going in this
Well,
month.
we're waiting for them to come back. They are changing the layout, so they're applying to Menlo Park Fire for the change. But they've already put in a couple of the inverters in our electrical room.
Yeah, so the first tranche of what they're doing is, it's gonna happen now.
okay, so I think in conclusion for this item, it's the wood flooring on Jennings and replacement bathrooms
Okay.
as.
Yep.
Into Robert, forget his last name, our finance director's, Barone's input into when he presents his report to the council. Anything else from the committee on this item? We can move on to 5F then. The Brightview Quality Site Assessments.
Well, you have them attached to your minutes. They're provided for informational purposes. They walk through the park. I mean, their management walks through the park every month and kind of highlights things for staff to work on. We have Will who's overseeing that contract, and
Have you introduced Will to everyone?
I think so.
Okay.
At the last, I think at the December meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, so Will Burse is our is our maintenance manager, been with us since beginning of December. And so he's taken on a lot. And I'm thankful for it. And so he's got the Brightview contract, the MCE contract, managing the guys in and out of the field, helping with, you know, every little thing here.
A lot of little
so,
things here.
Yeah, so,
Welcome,
a lot
Will.
of things going on.
Okay, any questions or comments on this? I don't, no. Why don't we move on to the Park Foundation, oh, no discussion items, Park Foundation report?
Well, we met, 2 days ago, we talked about the fact that we're probably gonna go ahead with this, with a, definitive, calling it Friends of Town. I think we're gonna try to gather and trying to very people to bring forward.
Frank, are you on?
My bad. We're going to, have a gathering of sorts. We're calling it roughly the Friends of the Fountain. So we're gonna try to go back. We need your help, Robert, I think we picked out a fountain type, do we not? Or
I
did we
think the
get-
one that was picked out was like from far away. I have a couple of suggestions for
Okay,
you
well,
to think about.
I thought we couldn't remember, Walt and I couldn't remember if we actually had gotten to a point where we decided on a fountain. I
The-
sort of remembered we
I
kind of
think you
did.
got pretty close.
We
I
got
think.
pretty close, but I don't think we came up with E1.
Yeah, and
So-
so,
We got to a decision. We looked at the traditional
Yeah.
type and two others, I think, Robert,
Yeah.
that you provided.
So if you could help us revisit that, and we'll.
yeah,
we'll
so
try to
if
do it.
you want, I don't know who from the foundation, if it's just gonna be you or you and Walt.
Well, it'll be everybody, it'll be him and me, so let's,
Okay,
if you
so
could-
what I'll do is, then Will and I will get together with you, have a couple of suggestions of places that you might actually be able to go and visit and like
Yes.
say, we like
that would be good.
that one, rather than having to order it from
Yep.
somewhere.
I would like to put my hands on one before we install it, see what it looks like. So that's our plan. What else, Walt? Is there anything else?
Basically, I think the overall view was not so much on I mean, that was kind of thrown out as an idea to have some event. But actually, I think the next step is going to be to have more exposure at
Yeah,
existing
that's true.
things like the Earth Day. We need to have our table. We need to build on what was shown right out here for the century celebration to get people really knowledgeable about what it does. We got our brochure, but you know, very few people actually get that or remember it anyway. So anyway, we're gonna do that there. We may fund a concert this summer, so we get the publicity doing that. So there's that. Bill Widmer had suggested he'd be more than happy to have us pay $5,000 for that. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, I think that's the main push. Now, obviously, people are interested particularly in pickleball and what that does to the park, and are anxious to get the report on the sound and things like that. So I think that's basically the thrust of the last meeting.
And would the fountain go in the location of the fountain?
That's what, now that everything's been finished and it could still go there.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan.
Great.
And does the mechanical part of the fountain have to be repaired, or is it?
Well, we'd have to rebuild the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it would be a complete rebuild, I believe. I don't,
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna say it's probably been a couple of years. We tested some of the stuff out. I mean, we have power available,
Mhm.
which is critical.
right,
There's a water source available.
yep.
And so I just don't remember if the old pump is still functioning.
I
or
don't
not.
either. So I would anticipate disaster, new pump and the whole bit.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions or comments on 7A? Seeing none, let's move on to seven B and seven C.
Okay, so you have the Parks Division monthly report. And per the committee's request, we've kind of revised the formatting a bit on some of the charts so that you can see some of the historic information going back. So if you wanted to do comparisons on whether it's tennis usage or rental revenue, et cetera, it's available. And so I'm gonna apologize that I forgot to include the December report. It was attached originally and distributed as part of the last meeting. I just didn't attach it to this one. But most of the, I'm gonna say, all of the table data from December is available in this month's report because it shows the historic stuff. So it highlights a few items that have been addressed, including dealing with lighting at the main house, the painting and putting reflectors at the entry and exit drives to help with that, pruning and other things, relocation of some picnic benches and other items that,
Soviet planters are gone.
what's that?
The Soviet planters. as
They're
Louis calls
gone.
them. They're gone.
Well, though, that was in last month's
That was,
report.
but we haven't met since then, yeah.
So if there's any questions about stuff in the monthly report, happy to answer.
Any questions or comments?
Okay. On the revenue side, you have, on the event side and revenue, you have the money that we got and the reservations that we had for January.
Mhm.
There are none for February.
Yeah, I noticed that. So,
We've gotten, I think, one or two so far for March.
okay.
So
okay.
this is just future look. So we've had a few people come in and out, looking at.
Is it because of the
facilities.
transition from cater to?
It's that, it's also the weather, it's, the season that it's kind of dry.
Okay. Okay.
Well, the reservations are dry, the season is not.
Gladfully. The tennis court usage is kind of way up. I mean, it's been kind of the same level as it was during the summertime, which is kind of surprising. Is it, is Michael doing statistics in a different way, or is it?
I don't know, we asked for the data.
Okay.
I will say that I did, when I got it, I put an eye on the pickleball and
Yeah.
their first report didn't have the pickleball data, so
Yeah.
went back and,
I just did a comparison with, say, last December and January,
Yeah.
and it's tripled since then. So that's
seems
a lot. Yeah.
odd, but
And it stayed consistent, like we have the same amount of hours usage as compared during the summer, so. Just found that interesting. I don't know, if Bob, you feel that that's been the traffic level at the tennis courts? Bob, Roser?
What's the question?
Oh, so I was,
microphone, please.
oh, the bike.
Yes.
I was just seeing the tennis court usage report and it's tripled since last December.
Well, we asked Jessica about this.
Yeah, yeah.
That usage is not usage.
It's the reservations.
Reservations. So
okay.
if people don't show
Yeah.
up like today, it's still out there
So
on the report.
We have tripled the reservations as last December.
Yeah,
and
that's the
January.
problem because they don't get canceled.
Okay.
So
okay.
if we want to get them canceled, we got to work with Michael on getting that done. I think we should, because it gives you a real look at how much
Yeah, how much usage and,
is being played, whether it's pickleball or whether it's tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This December was a lot less rainy than last December.
but even January is,
Yeah, January
is very high.
significant.
Yeah. Okay, maybe people were planning and then it rained and.
It's hard, it's really hard to tell, but I know in December we had trouble getting a court, and that usually is not the case for us.
Okay. And then, yeah, that's all I had for that. Okay. Any member comments? 7D.
I have a comment, and that is, as people know who may have attended the council session 2 hours before ours started, there's going to be a survey probably in the town. And I propose that people, and I hope you will look at it, look at the survey that was done on the park in 2013. It was what was the foundation for the master plan, a plan which has some items on it that never quite got done. But anyway, and Rick knows about this issue, but the question is, what do we want to ask? And that survey did an excellent job, a quite good job of asking things about the park. And seems to me that's where we ought to go. And it kind of fits with the public comment that was made. What do we really want to do with this park? And last time, the vast answer was nothing. Fix the bathrooms, and we like to kind of do something with the buildings, you know, they were kind of old. So anyway, I think we ought to all think about that, because the proposal, and I think Councilman can correct me, is there will be one member from this committee, which will be on a citywide, townwide committee, which will be survey committee. And so I think we want, and that person will come back to us and get views and things like that. So I think it's gonna be very important.
Shall we agendize that for the March
I
meeting?
think we should.
Okay.
Now,
I'm pretty sure that'll be, that staff will agendize that because it's going to be true for every committee.
Okay,
All of the advisory committees to the
Yeah.
council are recommended to have one person go on this survey committee.
okay. So let's put it on for March.
Well, I'm going to defer till I hear what that schedule is going to be.
Okay.
And if it is going to dovetail with that, then happy to do it. Otherwise, it may be further down the line. It's an appropriate
I
discussion.
will ask, do you defer to staff in terms of when to schedule this discussion, or do you want to have it? in
oh,
March?
yeah, because I didn't go to the final part was, it's likely the survey will be finalized about September and will not go out until January, so as not to be stuck with all the other public stuff on the election. So,
But I'd say, to your point, very relevant thing would be to ask staff to send everybody a copy of the 2013 survey,
yeah,
so that all of you can take a look at that,
yeah,
because that addresses the park in specific.
right.
And this survey is a townwide survey. It's going to be broader. There's going to be a limited number of questions regarding the park.
That's the problem.
But you all, I would look at that survey and see what you think, because I think you're right. I think, we've just done an enormous amount of work in the park. The biggest project we've ever done in the park, we just are completing. And, we did a lot of work in the event garden. The park is going to look great this summer, and it's going to be heavily used, I think. I don't know how much rented it's going to be, but it's going to be, people are going to really enjoy the park because Brightview's doing a good job. It's in great shape. And for this committee, I think it would be wise to take a look at that survey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you have any trouble getting it, Robert, I have it.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good then.
Okay.
So next meeting is March 6th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second? Okay,
Anybody else awake?
adjourn. Thanks for bearing with this long meeting.